Check, 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 check. It's me. Welcome to Jaking Off with Jake Redpath. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the podcast you clicked on. It's Jaking Off, baby. Woo! Woo! Oh, boy, we're having a fun time. How cool, man. Thanks for checking this thing out. I really appreciate it. I love you. I love you so much. If you have anything you want me to look into, send it over to jakin.off.podcast@gmail.com. Or you can send it to us on Instagram, jakin.off.podcast on Instagram. Boy, oh boy, it has been quite the week, everybody. The Chiefs won. We're going to the Super Bowl. Yes. Suck it, Cincinnati. You kiss my little butt. How about that? No, that felt really good. I was really happy. I'm not even as invested in the Super Bowl as I was in beating the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously I would like the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I'm rooting for them. But yeah, that Cincinnati win was big. That was big for me. That was big for the whole community. We did Chiefs and chatter. It was hard. Everybody was just so on edge. Everybody was really not in the mood for laughing at points. So, it was nerve-wracking, but we pulled it out. We pulled out the dub. That's what it's all about, baby. Gotta love it. Got to love it. I like their chances in the Super Bowl, man. I like the Chiefs' chances. I think that it could be good. I think that there are areas where we match up pretty well. I feel like the Eagles have an amazing defensive line. Their defensive line is phenomenal. And it's so deep too. I think that our offensive line can handle it though. I think that we have a solid O-line. And that was something that killed us against the Buccaneers, which I feel like their defense was really similar to the Eagles' defense that year because they had a stacked offensive line, and we just could not protect Mahomes at all. But I think we're much better situated to handle that this time. They have a crazy defensive secondary too. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. I think that, Andy Reid is like the most creative play caller in the NFL. I think that he'll figure out a way to put some points on the board probably. It's the defensive side that worries me. I'm worried about our defense. I hope that we get L'Jarius Sneed back. I don't know what the word is. I haven't really been paying too much attention this week. But listen to me talk about it, huh? But if we have L'Jarius Sneed back, I think that that'll be good for us. I think that we will have some victory here. That's a big one, man. That's a big guy in our secondary. But with all that said, the rookies in the secondary played amazing last week. I was really impressed. I mean, that offense is like no joke. That offense of the Bengals, I mean, they have so many weapons. And so much talent over there, and they played well. I mean, they held them to 20 points. If you would have told me that the Chiefs' defense was what ended up winning them that game, then I would have been shocked. But Cincinnati fans keep saying that it was the refs. Cry more, dude. Quit being such a little baby, you guys. Oh, did the refs win the game? Did they win the game for the Chiefs? Oh, little baby. Sorry. But I feel like our secondary played really well in that game, especially with the weapons that they have. So I feel better about it going into this Super Bowl than I think I would have if, that game that we just played against the Bengals was like some, shootout between Mahomes and Burrow kind of situation. And I feel the same way about this game. I mean, if we can, I think the key is going to be we have to stop. We have to prevent Jalen Hurts from running the football. He can't be the one to run the football and beat us, because anytime that guy like puts up big rushing numbers, the Eagles are going to win the game. You got to contain Jalen Hurts. You know what? Miles Sanders, like, tearing us up for a bunch of yards on the ground, I feel like is bad. Like, obviously you want to contain the entire run game, but if there's one person that we have to take away in the run game, it's you can't let Jalen Hurts do it. And that's what they're so good at. That's what the Eagles are so good at, and Jalen Hurts is so good at. That he knows when to pull it and run. So they're a tough team. I think it's going to be a really good game. My ultimate prediction, I think my prediction is Chiefs 27, Eagles 24. That's what I think the final score is going to be. I think that it comes down to it. Last possession, Patrick Mahomes gets the ball. Chiefs kick a field goal. Go up 3. Time expires on the Eagles. That's my guess. That's what I think it's going to be. Quote me on it, baby. But yeah, it's going to be a fun Super Bowl. I'm looking forward to it. I love it. I love the Super Bowl. Rihanna halftime show, dude. Rihanna's a great performer. I like her music. I have some of Rihanna's brand of underwear for men. So, how about that? Try that out. Yeah. I got them as a gift from my girlfriend. They're really comfortable. They're the most comfortable underwear that I own. I don't remember the name of the company to save my life, but they're really good. They're really good underwear. And I will be rooting for her to have a great halftime show while I'm wearing her underwear. There. How about that? Yeah, I'm I'm calling Chiefs, baby. I don't think that I'll bet anything. You can bet on like so much stuff in the Super Bowl. Maybe I will. I might. It could happen. We'll see. But I'm really amped. I'm really stoked for the prospect of everything, turning up Chiefs. Then we get that nice little Super Bowl parade. I missed the last Super Bowl parade. It was like the last thing that happened before COVID. I think that maybe I got COVID at that time because I went to a Super Bowl party, and then by the time the parade was rolling around, I was sick as shit and I felt like I had the flu. I was like the sickest I had been in a long time, honestly. And yeah, we didn't even but Jenny got tested and she had the flu. So it's probably just the flu. It probably wasn't COVID. I'm talking out of my ass. But I got sick. I didn't get to go to the parade last time. Isn't that a bummer? I want to go. I want to go this time. It was cold as shit, though. I wasn't that broken up about it. It was really, really cold the last time they had the parade. Maybe it'll be nicer this time. I went to the Royals World Series parade. That was pretty sick. There were a ton of people there. There's a ton of people there. But the Chiefs parades looked a little more lit. All those dudes slamming Coors Light and shit. Pretty sick. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the parade. We got a lot, dude. It's everything's coming up KC right now. I feel like there's weed is legal here now. Isn't that sick, dude? You can just smoke weed. You can just go out there and buy weed at like the store. It became legal in December, but like you couldn't buy it like at like a dispensary until like just the other day. I feel like people probably aren't going to buy from dispensaries. At least people that I know that smoke weed aren't going to buy weed from dispensaries. They're still just going to get it from the guy that they know. Their buddy, the dude whose number they text or whatever. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Hopefully that money goes to the right place, preferably schools. Send it to the schools, dude. Let's pay some teachers, huh? Let's buy some books for the kids. That's what I think. But it'll probably go to like, you know, building worse prisons or something awful. Um Now you got to be careful though because the police out there, like, weed is legal, so now they gotta pull you over for other shit. They're gonna be they gotta their quotas they have to meet are different now. They're gonna be out there in force, baby. Uh, doing more traffic stops, arresting more people for like bullshit that isn't weed possession. All their weed money's gone, so they got to do something, right? They got to do something. I don't know. I was happy when Missouri actually passed the bill to legalize weed because there were a lot of people they I read a couple of articles that were opposed to the Missouri legalization, and from the standpoint of being like, hey, this doesn't go far enough, or like, this doesn't do enough to da da da. Like, this bill isn't like perfect, and I agree that the bill, or is an amendment. It was a constitutional amendment, but regardless, the way that it was made legal maybe wasn't. It could have been more progressive in some ways, for sure. But I think the argument that was being made was we shouldn't pass this constitutional amendment. Instead, we should wait for legislators to write a better bill. And I just feel like believing if you live in this is Missouri. You know what I mean? We live in Missouri. There's no bill that is going to turn Missouri somehow into some progressive, you know, non-carceral like utopia or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't exist. There's not, the problems that these people want to be addressed, it can't be addressed by one weed bill or one weed amendment, Like, it can't it's structural in other ways. So like I feel like it was with good intentions but bad results. Like, how can you know they're like, it doesn't expunge enough people's records or something like that. And I'm like, man, how can you know look at somebody who's like sitting in jail, or like, they can't get a job or like find a place to live. They can't rent an apartment because of this weed charge. Their life is essentially ruined by having to go down for something that's being turned legal. You can't be like, well, we're not going to help you because we can't help everybody right now. That just seems so wild to me. Like, you can always write another bill that lets more people off the hook, but the thing is that they don't believe in legislators to do that. But somehow we're supposed to believe in those same legislators are going to write an even better, somehow more progressive, bill to legalize marijuana or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. And I was really surprised by how many people were getting into that sort of logic. And I think that they're well-meaning people, but it almost felt like an op. Like, it almost felt like this sort of controlled opposition that was like using people's own desire to do really good stuff against them, right? Making perfect the enemy of good, right? Would be, I think, the term. So I don't know. I just felt like that was so interesting, and I I'm I'm happy that it worked out the way that it did. Because there were other states that I think it was like Arkansas. I can't believe that even made it on the ballot there. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is their fucking governor. Oh, Hey, at least it ain't Bill Clinton. That's what I got to say about it. At least it ain't Bill Clinton. Um, nah, Bill's a good guy. I don't know. Things have been interesting. There's this Chinese spy balloon. Everybody is freaking out about it. People are spooked about the Chinese spy balloon. It's pretty funny, honestly. I the whole story is that this balloon just started floating. I think it floated through Canada. First, it was over Alaska. It probably would have had to go through Canada at least a little bit, Canadian airspace. Then came out in Montana, and people were like, "Oh my God, that ain't the moon. What the hell is that?" People from Montana don't talk like that. I don't know how they talk. Oh, is that the moon there? Is that a good Montano? Oh, look, I thought that was the moon, but actually it looks like some type of Chinese balloon. Uh, yeah, these people started seeing it, and now there's like this balloon that's been tracked. I think actually right before I started recording this, they shot it down. Allegedly, they finally took care of it. They were just waiting for it to get to a place or like an area where they didn't think that it was gonna, cause a bunch of damage to people's property and shit like that. So they were waiting for it to continue on its course. But it's a big ass fucking balloon. It's huge. They were saying that the stuff that it's carrying, like the sort of like payload or whatever that it's carrying, is the size of 3 buses, like 3 school buses. So that's a lot. That's a big ass payload, and it's all, surveillance shit, allegedly, is what the Pentagon is saying. China said that they were like, no, it's a civilian balloon. They're just doing weather uh weather research. I don't believe that. I don't think that that's true at all. And I think that probably it is a weather balloon that is meant to take pictures of stuff in America or somewhere else. And I think that it was a mistake. I think that they unintentionally, you know, it happened that this balloon is visible from the ground, and maybe it went off course or something like that. How the things steer themselves, I was reading about it, and how they steer themselves is that in different parts of the atmosphere of the Earth's atmosphere, there are streams of air, jet streams or whatever, that are going in different directions, and so mathematically you can sort of calculate how the altitude that this balloon needs to go to, or like up to or down to, in order to catch these specific jet streams, and it can go in the direction that you want it to go. So that's like my understanding of how these things, quote unquote, steer themselves. And so what that means, though, is that there's a lot of room for error. Like if you do the math wrong, you can end up in the wrong jet stream. It can shoot you out at the wrong place, something like that. Which isn't to say that whatever this thing is for was good. It's just to say that I think it's pretty obvious that it was a mistake that it's visible. I think it's a little bit of a snafu. And I also think that it presents a sort of unique inconvenience for the United States and China as well, but just as a U.S. citizen and a U.S. voter, and for other people that live in this country, I think it presents a really unique sort of inconvenience that we don't get to see often with this sort of stuff, because this is not something that is, I don't think it's particularly abnormal. For instance, there was another balloon in South America that they said was floating around. I don't think that this is something particularly abnormal. I just think that it's something that militaries of both countries don't like to acknowledge the sort of capabilities or technology that they use for certain things. And this balloon showing up just, out of the sky, just out of nowhere, is it sort of forces everybody's hand in the sense that they now sort of have to acknowledge this thing that it has always existed and has been going on back and forth for a long time, but that neither one of these countries are really willing to admit. And you see the same thing a lot with like cyber capabilities and like cyber warfare capabilities. A lot of the military sort of line on that shit is that we don't talk about it. That's why there's no sort of coordination between countries, even allied nations, nations who are allied with one another. There's not a lot of coordination or there's not a lot of rule writing that goes on, especially in international organizations, about cyber warfare capabilities. And when that stuff does happen, usually you'll see a lot of countries unwilling to sign on to these sort of agreements, in the way that they were willing or are willing to sign on to these agreements for other things like nuclear weapons or chemical weapons or biological weapons. You know what I mean? Countries were willing to sort of adhere to those agreements more so than they are cyber agreements that sort of govern cyber warfare, because they don't want to admit what they are and aren't able to do to other countries. They don't want to put it on paper like, hey, we think that like you shouldn't do this to another country. We think that you shouldn't use cyber warfare to shut down a country's power grid or whatever. And a lot of these countries don't want to admit that they're able to do that, and they want to pretend like they're not. That's not something that they're capable of. And so you see it a lot in especially in the realm of like cyber war and like that sort of technology, but really all like military technology. So it's sort of an interesting I feel like an interesting depiction of that sort of hesitance to acknowledge this sort of stuff from the establishment and the military and stuff like that. With that said, I mean, it is kind of fucking scary to have a Chinese balloon just floating around in the sky. People are really freaked out about it. I think rightfully so, to a certain extent. I think that some people are taking it too far, and I think you know who those people are. I found this video. This is Alex Jones talking about the Chinese spy balloon. And, here he is.
These blimps, and you've got these dirigibles, you've got these balloons with big high-tech packages flying around, drifting around. And a lot of them have little propellers on the sides, or little boosters or thrusters. I don't know if this one does because we haven't gotten a shot of the top of it. But regardless, that could very easily be an EMP weapon package or a test package to test an EMP attack. And you can bet your bottom dollar China's got thousands of them lined up ready to launch and send over the North Pole right into the United States. They can detonate them over any targets they want. And with a couple dozen of these, you would guaranteed knock out everything above ground in the U.S.
Yeah, so that's not true. I mean, the amount of the, hugeness of the amount of EMPs it would take to knock out everything above ground in the United States would be insane. It's not going to take a dozen of them or a couple of dozen. It's going to take a lot more than that. Either that or they would have to be the biggest fucking balloons of all time. They'd have to be huge to be able to carry that level of capability. So I don't know though. I talked to a family member of mine who was they brought it up and they were like, "Have you seen this Chinese weather balloon, this spy balloon that's been floating over? I mean, it is ridiculous." And they were like, "I think that they're going to attack our southern and northern borders." I was like, "What are you talking about?" You know what I mean? That's such a far stretch, to act as if this is some sort of I mean I definitely think that it's a bit of a pressing issue. Like, you don't want other countries just floating weather balloons into your fucking airspace. Like, I think that that's pretty serious, but I also think that there's a good chance that this is potentially a whoopsies, and maybe we don't automatically jump to this is an act of war and we're under attack and all this stuff. I think that a lot of people don't understand, because there's so much rhetoric in this country that is driven towards China, and China being a hostile nation, and the US and China are set on this path of conflict and all this stuff, and it's just sort of so typical. And I mean, it's what always happens, right? In this country, there has to be an adversary, there has to be a boogeyman, if you will. And I feel like the boogeyman being China is really interesting, because I think it really does display just how little understanding most people have for the way that the world works, and specifically like geopolitics and stuff. Because the way the reason why you're probably not going to see China launching some sort of attack on the United States anytime soon, because any attack on the United States is going to be unsuccessful, right? The only sort of thing that you could say would potentially really, fuck up the United States would be like nuclear strikes and stuff like that. But it's mutually assured destruction, right? There's no real scenario where like China launches a nuclear strike against the United States, and the United States can't retaliate or respond in some way. And so it's mutually assured destruction. So I mean, that's obviously, it could happen, but it's not likely to happen. And the other thing you have to remember is our economies are so intertwined. Well, before that though, the other thing is that if China was going to invade the United States, like through their borders or something, first of all, you got to go all the way. You got to go through Canada to invade at our border. Like, you can't do like a beach landing in America. You know what I mean? Like, Normandy can't happen again. That's not like a realistic thing. It's we're in the one of the most like easily defensible positions in that sort of sense, than anywhere else, right? We have neighbors who are very friendly to us for the most part, and despite how unfriendly we are to them at times. And it's we have two oceans on each side. So that's just unrealistic. The idea that China is going to attack America is sort of unrealistic. But on top of that, just even the impracticality of it in an actual war sense. Also, there's not much that they stand to gain at this point, right? Like, and the person that I was talking to, my family member, was like, I was like, why would they do that? Why would they attack America? Like, what is your reasoning? And they're like, well, because they hate us. And I'm like, dude, I mean, first of all, I think that, you know, potentially the level of like hatred for the United States and China is like a little overstated, if anything. I definitely think that there are people in China who hate the United States. And I think that they're like, you know, an adversarial relationship between the United States and China. But it hasn't always been like that, and it doesn't have to be like that. That's not the only option, right? People forget that. But also, just even outside of that, it's like, what war has ever. There's not actually wars happening that are because, oh, they don't like us. That doesn't exist. That's not really a thing, especially in the contemporary world. In the modern world, like there's not wars happening that are over like, well, we just don't like them. You know, we just think they're stupid. It's like, dude, that is such a simple simplistic mentality or like mindset to have about the reasons why things happen. You know, it's like the same thing. You see it all the time too. I feel like with people who are like compared, like they will compare like international politics or like, you know, that kind of stuff to like, well, they were just being a bully. Like Germany was just being a bully. And it's like, dude, no, they weren't. They weren't just being a bully. You know, like, you know, Germany, like the Nazis they were really what they were bullies. Schoolyard bullies, and they just take what you want until you hit them in the mouth. It's like, no, dude, you're an idiot. That's not just what they were. It's like this and I blame the media, I guess, for this. Just this oversimplification of this very complex stuff that goes on. And affects us every day. It has big effects on us. But people are really freaking out. And then, like, of course, there's this whole sort of thing where they're like, shoot it down. Like, shoot down the fucking, the balloon. Shoot down the balloon. And the whole reason why they're not shooting it down is because it's big as fuck and could really, like, mess some shit up if it landed in the wrong spot. So they have to be careful. Allegedly, they were already had blocked it from being able to surveil anything on the ground. And so they were just waiting for the right time to shoot this thing down. I mean, the military has like weapons and planes and stuff that can easily scramble, you know, whatever communication method this thing is using. That's why it doesn't really make any sense. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing doesn't really make any sense as far as you know, this mode of like attack or like this serious thing of surveillance. That's why I think that it flew off course. People were tweeting though to that Alex Jones video. I pulled some of my favorites. Fly above my property and you'll be down next to me. Promise you that. They're gonna shoot it out of the fucking air with a gun. I got my fucking hunting rifle. I'll shoot it out of the air. 60,000 feet ain't shit. Somebody responded, "Welcome to Pronoun USA." It's a Chinese balloon. What does it have to do with pronouns, dude? That's so silly. Come on, guys. My favorite one, this was from Rob Schneider. You know Rob Schneider. The Deuce Bigalow, American Gigolo. Rob Schneider, the guy who, he's like, his big claim to fame is being Adam Sandler's buddy. Rob Schneider, he tweeted a picture of the balloon. And he said this. He said, the same government that says it doesn't want to pick a hole. I'm sorry. The same government that says it doesn't want to poke a hole in the experimental Chinese spy balloon because it might injure people is the same government that had no problems poking holes in people's arm with an experimental gene therapy for a Chinese virus. Shut up. Dude, come on. Are you really? Is this really where we're at? We got to shoehorn in stuff about the vaccine into this Chinese balloon. Like, can we all take a step back for a second and just chill the fuck out? Everything is going okay. Everything is going fine. People get so worked up on about this stuff. It's like, dude, just take a breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, dude. Chill out. Take a breather and you know, just sort of calm down. It's not that serious, dude. It's not, Rob Schneider. You gotta cool it, bud. You gotta take it easy. You're too wound up. You're stressing Adam Sandler out. Yeah, man. The balloon is down. Everyone can chill out, and hopefully we can all just sort of just keep in mind that there's no reason to start a big war over this, you know? There's no reason to. They're gonna come for our borders. First it's our air, then it's our land. I'm gonna shoot it down. Man, oh man. Dude, I think I talked about it briefly last time. My cousin Nicole sent me this article about Ron DeSantis banning AP African studies in high schools in Florida. And that was fucked up. But now, dude, I mean, like, it's been going on for so long, especially in Florida. But I watched this video of this lady yelling at some board members of a university. There's like this sort of, I guess, hostile takeover of some school in Florida. This traditionally like a liberal school or something like that. And this lady's yelling at the board members. She's a parent at the school, yada, 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 yada. But it's just, it's interesting, man. I don't understand how people can't question, you know. I feel like it's would be one thing if, you know, people actually had like legitimate gripes with like critical race theory or whatever. Because the stuff that they're talking about isn't actually critical race theory at all. But even beyond that, I don't understand why people aren't questioning, well, why don't they want us to read that? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't they want, you know, why are they trying to keep this information from us? Like, it's always the same people who are like, they're lying. Like, don't believe anything they say. But whenever these politicians come out for stuff that, you know, they're like, we got to ban these books. I mean, they're literally like, we're like having book burnings and shit. You know, they're like, this is gender ideology, like kind of stuff, or like, this is critical race theory. But when you ask these people what that is, like, they can't explain it. And I don't understand how none of these people are able to be like, huh, like, I guess, yeah, why do they not want us to read that? What could be the purpose of preventing us from learning about critical race theory? Could there be potentially truth that is being withheld? I just think it's so strange, but I get it. They're all tricked. They're all fooled into that kind of stuff. Everybody is about certain shit. You gotta be careful out there, buddy. You gotta watch out. You know, gotta watch out for the old media machine. Gonna get you. Gonna turn you into somebody you're not. You know, somebody you aren't. So that shit worries me, dude. I worry about like people I know getting taken advantage of and stuff. Like this family member that I talked to today, it's like somebody who like usually doesn't even bring up like political stuff. It's like one of those things where like, you know, that they have political beliefs, of course they do. Everybody does. They have things that they think, but they don't usually bring them up because they this person is. I don't think that they have super strong convictions about it. Like, I think that really ultimately they're sort of apolitical and don't give a shit that much. But just, sometimes people think that they get like passionate about something, and usually they're wrong. But yeah, it just I worry about them being taken advantage of in some way, or that kind of stuff. People I love, people I care about, going, falling down a rabbit hole that they can't get out of. And it's sad, and I feel like it's so easy for that to happen now. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with the way that we the way that we consume news now is like just so different, and it's like changed so quickly and like so fast. With the advent of like sort of like online journalism and like individuals doing the work. I mean, like, look at Substack is like blowing up. Like, people have Substacks and stuff, and I think that it's good. Like, I think that it's democratizing the way that news gets reported, which is a good thing. But I also think it comes with a lot of drawbacks that people don't usually consider, and people don't usually think about when they're taking this sort of stuff in, right? Because you have somebody that has a Substack or whatever, but it's just a guy. There's nobody there working on that stuff with this person, usually, like an editor or something that would maybe exist at another place. And I'm not even saying that to defend that other system over this. I'm just saying it as like a point of, sometimes these people can get out of hand a little bit, and they can be they're sort of their goals, if they had goals to be doing the right things and stuff, can become obscured by their own biases and shit. And if you don't have other people around to check that, it can become a problem. And that doesn't happen to everybody. That's, some people are able to be objective about themselves, and that exists, but it's important to remember that not everybody can. And, sometimes you have to be careful how seriously you take some of these more, these more prominent sort of individuals who might have a lot of skin in the game. They might have a lot of skin in the game to push a sort of narrative. I don't. Hardly anybody is listening to me, so maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe I gotta get a narrative. I'd make a great Tucker Carlson. I'd be so good at it. I know just what to say. With that said, guys, I think that's it. I think we're wrapping it up. Trying to keep these close to 45 minutes, so thank you so much for listening. I love you. I love you so much, and you're so beautiful, and I enjoy you. So have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye forever.